Iran's supreme leader is missing. The biggest banks just froze every account, and the regime is going bankrupt in real time. I'm sitting here watching something absolutely unprecedented unfold, and the full picture is far more terrifying than anything you've seen in the headlines. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened in the last 72 hours, why it connects back to one corrupt billionaire, one collapsing bank, and one dynasty that may have just lost its head, literally. Stay with me, because every piece of this story connects to the next, and by the end, you'll understand why this isn't just a Middle East crisis. This is a regime fighting for its life with its citizens' money. If you're new here, this is Daily Brief. Subscribe right now, because we cover the stories that go deeper than the headlines, and right now the situation is moving faster than any news cycle can keep up. Let's go back 72 hours, not to a tweet, not to a press conference, to a text message. On the morning of March 10th, 2026, hundreds of thousands of Iranians woke up to an SMS from their bank. No warning, no context, just, your account is locked. Customers of Bank SEPA and Bank Melli, two of the largest state-owned banks in the entire Middle East, received the same message. Websites blocked, ATMs down, branches empty. As reported by Iran International, the disruptions began at approximately 2 a.m. local time, hitting both institutions simultaneously. The Central Bank of Iran initially dismissed reports of a problem, calling claims about the outage unreliable fakes. Then, hours later, it quietly admitted parts of the banking system had become inoperable. Inoperable. Their word, not mine. Long lines formed outside ATM machines across Tehran. Machines displayed temporarily out of service. Families who depend on daily banking access suddenly could not pay for food, transportation, or basic necessities. According to RegTech Times, small businesses were hit too. Card payment systems stopped working. Without reliable digital transactions, normal economic activity in multiple cities ground to a halt. Stop. Think about that for a second. This is not a minor disruption. This is not a system upgrade. Two of the biggest banks in the country, both state-owned, both deeply tied to the government and military, went dark at the same time, affecting millions of people. The regime called it a central bank technical upgrade to communication switches for network stability. Whatever that means. If your bank sent you that message at 2 in the morning, you would be losing your mind. So what actually happened? There are two theories, and both of them are damning. The first, U.S. and Israeli forces targeted the bank's SEPA data center in Tehran, the same facility that handles payroll for members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's right. The system that pays Iran's soldiers and paramilitary enforcers was hit. According to reporting cited by the Jerusalem Post, the strike occurred while the bank was actively processing salary payments. The regime's enforcers, the Basij, the IRGC foot soldiers who keep dissent in check and may not have gotten paid. Let that sink in. The second theory is simpler and even more sinister. The regime itself froze the accounts to redirect civilian funds toward its own survival. As one analyst put it bluntly, this is almost certainly the regime freezing enormous sums of money taken directly from its citizens to ensure its own survival. Both theories are credible. Neither looks good for Tehran. And here is where the story gets darker, because this banking crisis didn't start last week. It didn't start with Operation Epic Fury. It started years ago, and it traces directly back to one man, his corrupt bank, and his very powerful friend, who is now either running Iran or lying unconscious in a hospital. Subscribe to Daily Brief if you haven't already, because the next part of this story is the part everyone is missing. Announcement number 1. The Ponzi scheme at the center of Iran's economy. His name is Ali Ansari. If you've been following Iranian politics, you've heard that name before. He is an Iranian businessman who has been embedded in the elite circles of power since the 1990s. But in 2013, he founded a bank, Ayande Bank, and it became one of the fastest-growing financial institutions in the country. Why? Because it offered some of the highest interest rates in Iran. Millions of ordinary Iranians poured their savings in. Workers, retirees, civil servants, small business owners, people who trusted a bank that promised returns the way banks are supposed to work. But here's the thing about interest rates that are too high. You have to ask, where is that money actually coming from? In Ayande Bank's case, it was coming from loans. Massive loans, extended to what an official at the Central Bank of Iran later described as parties related to the bank and projects managed by the bank itself. That official, Hamidreza Ghaниabadi, told the IRNA news agency directly more than 90% of Ayande Bank's funds went to insider parties. Funds that were never repaid. 90%. never repaid. One of the biggest recipients of those loans? A company connected to Ali Ansari himself to build what would become known as Iran Mall. Located in western Tehran, it was not a mall. It was a city, twice the size of the Pentagon, built to look like a 16th century Persian imperial palace. According to Al Jazeera, it was the largest mall in the world by total constructed floor area, ice rinks, cinemas, the works. In a country where by early 2026, the average monthly salary couldn't buy you 8 eggs. Does a country like that support the world's biggest mall? Apparently not. The mall failed. The loans went unpaid. The bank collapsed. And with it, 5 quadrillion rials, yes, quadrillion, in debt, and 2.5 quadrillion rials in ordinary Iranians' deposits. That is, by current open market exchange, roughly 467 billion in debt. Gone. This is a Ponzi scheme with extra steps. When the collapse became undeniable, Iran's central bank forced Ayande Bank to merge with Bank Melli, the state-run national bank. According to the Times of Israel, as of October 2025, the transfer was declared complete. Former Ayande branches across Tehran changed their signs. This former Ayande Bank branch is now part of Melli Bank. The poison didn't disappear, it just moved. But Ali Ansari, nothing happened to him. No charges, no prosecution, he walked free. Because Ali Ansari is close friends with the man who just became Iran's supreme leader. Announcement number 2, the dynasty, the corruption, and the property portfolio in London. Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the assassinated Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, now appointed supreme leader of Iran, has known Ali Ansari for years. And that relationship wasn't just social. According to investigative reports, Ansari was the front man buying hundreds of millions of dollars in property on Mojtaba's behalf across Europe, $150 million in London property alone. He wasn't just a business associate, he was the financial architect of the new supreme leader's hidden wealth. And that is why the man who ran what amounts to a multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme on the Iranian people walked out of the collapse without a scratch. Now, Ali Khamenei, the old supreme leader, Mojtaba's father, was killed on February 28, 2026, in the first wave of strikes in what the U.S. and Israel called Operation Epic Fury. Multiple members of his family were killed in the same strike. Within days, the Assembly of Experts voted to appoint Mojtaba as the new supreme leader. That vote happened, the announcement was made, and then silence. No speech, no address, no video, no voice. State television announced Mojtaba Khamenei would give a live address to the nation. He never showed up. State TV never mentioned it again, provided no explanation, offered no reschedule. They just moved on, as if they hadn't just announced that the most powerful man in Iran would speak to his nation for the first time. Instead, they displayed a portrait of him, decorated according to multiple observers like a funeral portrait, not a living leader, a memorial photo. And now we get to what everyone is really asking. Announcement number 3, the ghost Ayatollah. 6 days after his appointment, Mojtaba Khamenei has still not appeared on camera, has not spoken in public, has not issued an audio message. What Iran's state television broadcast on Thursday, March 12th, what they described as his first message, was read by a news anchor, not by him. A written statement with no voice, no video, no image. As U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said at a Pentagon press conference on Friday, he put out a statement yesterday, a weak one actually, but there was no voice and there was no video. Hegseth went further. He stated plainly that the new Iranian supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. The Pentagon did not provide specific evidence, but the circumstantial case is mounting fast. Here is what we know, pieced together from multiple independent sources. A source communicating through messages to an exiled Iranian dissident in London told The Sun that Mojtaba Khamenei is hospitalized in intensive care at Sina University Hospital in Tehran. A large section of the building has been sealed off with heavy security. Only a handful of authorized individuals have access to the ICU. That same source said the new supreme leader suffered severe injuries. According to I-24 News, sources indicate he is in intensive care and is unaware of the ongoing war, the deaths of his family members, including his wife and son, and even his own appointment as supreme leader. The doctor treating him has been identified as Mohammad Reza Zafargandi, Iran's Minister of Health and one of the country's most senior trauma surgeons. The presence of the health minister at the bedside of a critically injured patient tells you something about who is in that bed. Iranian state media itself earlier referred to Mojtaba as Janbaz of Ramadan. That is not a neutral phrase. In Iran, it is a term used exclusively for wounded war veterans. The regime accidentally confirmed the injury while trying to frame it as martyrdom. Meanwhile, as reported by Euronews, Iran's ambassador to Cyprus, Alireza Salarian, told The Guardian that Mojtaba suffered injuries to his legs, arms, and hands. "I've heard his legs and arms were injured," Salarian said in an interview at the Iranian embassy in Nicosia. "I think he's in the hospital because he was wounded." His own ambassador in an interview. And in a remarkable moment of accidental honesty, one Iranian official told reporters, in words cited by I-24 News, "No one knows anything about Mojtaba, whether he is alive or dead or how badly injured. We are all just told that he's injured. He has no control over the war because he is not here. He has no control over the war because he is not here." Read that again. The commander-in-chief of a country currently at war with the United States and Israel, a country firing missiles at Gulf states, threatening to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, running active military operations, has no control because he is not there. Who is running things? As reported by CNN, Mojtaba Khamenei spent nearly 4 decades operating behind the scenes during his father's rule. He rarely appeared in public. His prolonged invisibility now is not entirely new, but it is catastrophically ill-timed. According to CNN's coverage, there is so little verified footage of the new leader that government outlets have resorted to circulating AI-generated videos of him delivering speeches to large crowds, embracing his father, standing beside slain General Qasem Soleimani. Scenes that never happened. The regime is manufacturing a leader who may not be there. Iranians on social media have started calling him the AI Supreme Leader. Meanwhile, according to reporting by Euronews, there are discussions within parts of Iran's political establishment and among some clerics in Qom about temporarily restoring a collective leadership structure until Mojtaba can fully assume his duties. The IRGC, however, is expected to resist that move strongly. And so the question of who is actually making military decisions remains unanswered. Nader Hashemi, associate professor of Middle East and Islamic politics at Georgetown University, told CBC News, "The longer he doesn't make a public appearance on camera, the more rumors are going to circulate about the breadth and depth of his injuries. This is the most important moment of modern Iranian history, and the man at the center of it cannot or will not speak." Appuyez sur like si vous avez suivi jusqu'ici, and let me know in the comments, do you think he's alive? Because we're about to get to what this means for you. Now let's talk about the consequences, not for Iran, for the world. Bank SIPA, the bank whose data center was just struck, is not just a normal financial institution. According to reporting by the Jerusalem Post, it is the primary processor of salary payments for military personnel and for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. U.S. and Israel did not hit a random bank. They hit the payroll system. If the IRGC doesn't get paid, the IRGC stops fighting. Or worse, it starts making its own decisions. Iran's military command understood this immediately. According to Reuters, cited by American banker, Iranian military official Zulfagari issued a direct statement. "With this illegitimate and uncommon action, the enemy is forcing our hand to target economic centers and banks linked to the U.S. and Zionist regime in the region." He added that Americans should await our countermeasure and our painful response, and warned people in the Middle East to stay at least 1 kilometer from banks. Let me translate that for you. Iran is now threatening to strike Western financial infrastructure. This is not commercial disruption. This is financial warfare. And it is happening while Iran's own banking system is collapsing from the inside. According to data cited by Iran News Update, out of Iran's 29 licensed banks, at least 18 fall below the 8% capital adequacy ratio required under international Basel standards. 8 of those banks, including Bank SEPA, carry negative capital ratios. Bank Sarmaya sits at negative 328%. Ayande, before its dissolution, was at negative 360%, negative 360%. These are not banks in trouble. These are shells pretending to be banks. And when the shells collapse, the money inside them, the savings of ordinary Iranians, disappears with them. Meanwhile, as reported by RegTech Times, the crisis is being felt hardest by retired military personnel and government workers who receive their salaries through the very banks that just went dark. Thousands of people are waiting for funds that have not yet arrived. Retirees who served the state, security personnel, ordinary government employees, the people who kept the system running, left waiting for paychecks that may not come. And the internet? As documented by NetBlocks, Iran has now spent more than 240 hours offline, making this, in their assessment, among the most severe government-imposed nationwide internet shutdowns on record globally, the second longest ever registered in Iran, after the January protests, a country that has already spent a third of 2026 offline. Iranians can't access their money, they can't access information, they can't communicate freely, and their new supreme leader has not spoken since taking power. This is not a country going through a difficult period. This is a country that is being dismantled simultaneously from the outside by U.S. and Israeli military operations, and from the inside by decades of corruption, Ponzi economics, and dynasty politics that robbed millions of ordinary people to enrich a few powerful families. Remember Ali Ansari, the man who built the world's biggest mall with Iranian savings, watched his bank implode and take their money with it, and walked free because his friend was about to become supreme leader? His friend, now either in a coma or hiding in a hospital, unable to speak, unable to lead, was supposed to be the protector of that system. The system is eating itself. I see two paths forward, no middle. Path one, Mojtaba Khamenei emerges. He makes a video appearance in the coming days. He's battered, injured, perhaps visibly wounded, but alive and coherent. The regime uses his survival as Shia martyrdom mythology. As historian Arash Azizi noted to CNN, the wounded son of a martyred imam, echoing the Battle of Karbala. The IRGC's 31 regional commands hold. Iran sustains its war posture. The banking system limps along on emergency central bank injections. The regime survives, battered but intact. Condition: Mojtaba has to be coherent enough to speak, and the IRGC has to stay loyal without the paycheck guarantee. Path 2, the spiral. Mojtaba does not emerge. The collective leadership structure fragments between civilian officials, IRGC commanders, and the assembly of experts. Military decisions become decentralized and unpredictable. A leaderless military with missiles and drones is not a stable military. It is a dangerous one. Meanwhile, the banking freeze expands. More Iranians lose access to savings. Protests rebuild, as they did in January, which required the regime to kill tens of thousands of people just to hold on. This time, the security forces may not get paid to do the killing. Add to that the UAE factor. As reported in the original briefings, a significant portion of Iran's elite assets have been parked in UAE accounts for years. As Iran has continued attacking UAE infrastructure, the UAE government has been debating freezing those assets. If that move has been made, and there is reason to believe it has, Iran's offshore financial cushion evaporates. The banks scramble, the central bank prints more money. Inflation, already catastrophic, spikes again. Everyone suffers. The regime suffers last, but it suffers. I think we are already on path 2, but I said something similar 3 days ago, and then Mojtaba's written statement came out, and the situation shifted slightly, temporarily. That's the thing about this crisis. Every day brings something that resets the clock. Let me leave you with 3 questions. Was Mojtaba Khamenei installed as supreme leader by people who knew he was critically injured because they wanted a figurehead, not a leader, who actually makes the decision to call a ceasefire or to escalate when the commander-in-chief is on a ventilator? And the one that matters most right now, if the IRGC stops getting paid, who do they answer to? Leave your answers in the comments. I read every single one. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like. It genuinely helps us reach more people who want to understand what's actually happening. And subscribe to Daily Brief, because this story is not slowing down. The next 72 hours in Iran could change everything again. Stay sharp.